Welcome back to the Shacknews Awards. We are so close to being done with our deliberations here. But before we go, we wanted to do one of the more special awards we do every year. This is the Outstanding Achievement in Accessibility Award for the year 2024. To be eligible for this, you had to have shipped a game in 2024 that features outstanding accessibility features. I guess if you're a game that already was out, but you shipped some new accessibility features in the year, we would also consider you for this category. But for most of the time, it's been new games. And it's been a trend over the past few years that we're seeing with companies like Microsoft or Ubisoft, where accessibility is not just a feature, it's becoming a standard. And that's a good thing. We applaud that. So here are the nominees. We'll get to talking about what they did that was special in the space, and then we'll vote, and then we'll declare a winner. Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, Call of Duty: Black Ops 6, Tekken 8, Dragon Age: The Veilguard, Star Wars Outlaws, and Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. So yeah, I guess we can kick it off with Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown. I said in the intro, but Ubisoft has done an amazing job with accessibility across their games. I think they have a standard at this point. And early on, the thing that I noticed about Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, it drops you straight into the menu with the settings for accessibility, and it has voiceover on by default. I think those are two things that kind of stick out, is that shift away from, a start screen towards here's a setting screen so that you're able to start the game. Without being able to do that, some accessibility controllers just don't even work. So I think that's a huge thing. What else was in Prince of Persia that stuck out from an accessibility standpoint?
I think they had color options as well, right? Where
Yeah,
maybe it was in the menus or enemies.
because there's like on-screen elements that use
Mhm.
color to kind of
Yeah,
signify what's going on.
they had a
And
contrast mode that you could toggle on, like a high
mm,
contrast mode.
yep.
Yeah,
And they offer, it's cool, like not just, oh, here's colorblind settings, but it's like with different color blindness in mind. Because there's different levels of it. There's certain people see certain kinds of colors, so being able to have optionality there, I think, is huge. And yeah, Ubisoft's been doing a really good job with respects to accessibility for a while. So yeah, what's so great about COD Blops 6, guys? What stuck out to you?
Well, colorblind is very good in that game, because it allows you. See, I kind of fall between the cracks with being colorblind, so I don't really fit into the boxes of the three main types of colorblind, and usually I can't pick one of those presets and get what I need out of it, so I end up just not picking anything and then just struggling with it, right? Because at least then I'm used to it. So what Call of Duty does differently is it allows you to manually set the color yourself. So instead of me having to go and sort of like pick a preset, it's like, oh, well, I would like my crosshair to be this color, or I would like my teammates to have this color over their head, or whatever their names. So that's number one. Like the colorblind settings are actually very good. What got me, and this is something I haven't personally seen. Now it might be in previous Call of Duties, is the accessibility for tinnitus. So a couple years ago, I started noticing a ringing in my ears, and it was only when I was trying to sleep. If I'm talking, I couldn't hear it, right? Because I've got other kind of like background noise going on, so I didn't hear the ringing. But I didn't even know what tinnitus was up to that point. And then when I was diagnosed with it, I was like, oh crap, I have this thing and it's going to be a pain for a long time or forever. And when I was going through the Black Ops 6 accessibility settings, they have tinnitus accessibility settings, which is essentially if there's an explosion, that ringing that they usually simulate in video games it really bothers me when I hear that sound. So I can change that sound, which Obviously is not really designed for someone like me who randomly has tinnitus. I think there's probably a lot of veterans who play shooters.
Sure.
And they, like a lot of veterans, struggle with tinnitus for obvious reasons. But I just thought that was nifty that they have tinnitus accessibility settings, because I don't think I've ever seen that.
It's definitely newer. I haven't seen that either.
You're talking
I've
about
heard
like
it.
the ringing when you get concussed or flashed, right, Bill? That's part of the
Yep.
settings.
So you can have that sound changed, because that sound is extremely irritable to someone who has tinnitus.
Yeah. That's cool. Would like to see more stuff like that. I think we kind of talked about this in another category, TJ, but Tekken 8 has some solid accessibility standards too, or features. You want to talk about some of the ones that you saw in there that stuck out?
Yeah, like they've got a lot of visual settings to help folks out. Like there's colorblind settings, there's adjustments that you can make to the colorblind settings. Up to and they actually had to fiddle with this. They made a version of the game where it's like the character, everything is like in sort of negative, and the characters are high contrast against the background. So like it's just the bodies and the background. There's also a lot of accessibility when it comes to inviting new players into the game. This might be one of the most well thought out training modes I've ever seen put into a fighting game. And to the point that like other fighting games are starting to steal a few things from Tekken 8. The save in the middle of training mode at any place you want is so incredibly useful at both low level and high level for figuring out your situation and coming to terms on like the best way to contend with a situation. They have straight up punish training where like you can practice your like it helps you practice and grow your reaction times against certain attacks. And just the level at which it aims to help players of every skill understand and grow better at Tekken is impressive beyond impressive from a mechanical standpoint as well as like the visual standpoint.
Nice. Yeah, I think we've seen that. I want to say Mortal Kombat 1 had a pretty good tutorial last year. David, would you agree with that? You're muted, by the way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So it has become a trend, I think, in recent history, TJ. And then like even Street Fighter 6 last year, where like you can show button inputs like in the Battle Hub games. Like I feel like FGC as a whole has to become better at that, at welcoming new players in. I think it's a challenge that the FPS genre faced. It still faces, and why like games like Quake kind of died off was that all you had left were the super pro players. So like casuals didn't really have a way to enjoy it. I think games thinking about that is smart because you want to reach as many people as possible, and also like the next Arslan Ash is out there right now, and they may not be good at the game yet, but if you give them the right tools, they may learn to become the greatest in the world. And I think it's cool to hear that Tekken 8 is doing stuff like that.
Yeah, I appreciate that Tekken like helps making it easier to put in that kind of time, because ultimately you have to put in the time with the games itself to get better, but making it in a way where it's not just a chore. Stuff like that, like punish training and stuff like that.
Like giving
it goes
them
a long way.
practice, like giving them practice instead of just saying, "Hey, kid, go play ranked against someone who's gonna just dog walk."
Yeah, getting crushed in 2 minutes and then wondering what happened while like it's a whole lot to
It's
process.
discouraging, it's deflating, and it makes people not want to play the game. So I think offering them this is like a very cool thing. And then the stuff that all these games are doing with Spectate, I think, is huge. But yeah, Tekken 8.
I do want to say one last thing on it.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you only want to play Tekken 8 for the story, if you want to play single player offline, if you just want to enjoy it without getting into the competitive aspect, they have you covered there too, because they built a control style that, like, yes, Street Fighter 6 already had like a modern style, but Tekken 8's you can toggle it on and off as you feel. So there's like a straight up special style where it will let you just button mash square, square, square and do auto combos for you. And I think that's good for people that don't want to play the competitive side of this. I think that's good for people that just want to kind of get the story and play the characters and then call it a day.
Wait a second. You're speaking directly to me right now because I
Absolutely.
am terrible at fighting games. Can I use that control scheme against you online?
Yes. You can
Okay.
toggle it on and off in
Oh,
any
shit.
match.
I figured out our next stream, man. Just me with baby controls against TJ. And I'll be Hihachi and you be the bear. Okay, sounds like a plan. Awesome. You see,
Come back.
we're already changing gaming with this. Like I'm already more interested in playing the game. Yeah, I think that's huge. And it's great to see. And I hope like over the next few years we see some sort of standardization here. Because like it feels like we're getting close to the right equation for making FGC more like fighting games more accessible. And I hope it becomes like standardized to your point. I hope the Battle Hub multiplayer mechanics also become standardized because that's the way. And things like rollback netcode and things like crossplay, like all these things need to become standards for I think the FGC to thrive, which it is right now. We're in like a very good time period for fighting games. Maybe the best time ever.
Yep, the golden age.
And Tekken 8 is one of those games that has got us here.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, show some love to the folks who have been pushing for that and also put it on display for different games like that. I mean, you have folks like Broly Legs out here doing their thing. And there's plenty of disabled gamers out there, especially on the fighting game scene, that have been waiting for moments like this where, it's not as much of a struggle to get through. Just learning the game itself and performing at a high level. And, the same with being able to play with your friends and other titles that you may not be as good at or plan on putting that type of time into, because there's a lot of that kind of crossover happening in the fighting game space too, where I might be really good at Street Fighter, but I might suck at King of Fighters. But that doesn't mean I don't want to necessarily play with my friends sometimes and have some fun with it on that end. So, yeah.
And we haven't like lost anything from the competitive side in doing this. Like I know that's like an argument made against making Souls-like games with an easy mode or something, but like you still have hard mode. Like you still can go play ranked in Tekken 8. Like it's not like they got rid of that.
There is no amount of mastery of special style in Tekken 8 that will keep you from getting washed by Arslan Ash if you're up against him.
Yeah. Yeah, because Pakistan runs Tekken right now.
Mm-hmm.
It just happened. Dragon Age of the Veilguard is also nominated here. TJ, I know you played through the whole game for review. What are some standout features from the accessibility in the game?
Dragon Age Veilguard did a great job with giving us like the suite of colors of control of the kind of things that you want out of an RPG if you're going to be moving through this game. Obviously, like having being able to change it between like a difficult RPG and also change it to like just straight up story mode is a thing that we've seen a lot of in recent RPGs. But it fits so well here just because I'm not crazy about the combat or the control in Veilguard. Putting it on a story mode so I don't have to deal with that as much as possible is actually appealing to me.
That's
Likewise,
kind of like what Kojima did that with Death Stranding. There's like I just want to see the story mode where there's no fail condition. I don't think you can just play through the game.
Yeah. You can do all the stuff that you can do a lot of stuff with the colorblind settings. You can do a lot of stuff with the UI and make it more simple or more complex as you need. You can do a lot of stuff with like visual cues as far as threats go, as far as like you can make it so like there will be sound cues to warn you of incoming melee if you want, or incoming ranged attacks. And like I think it's just a pretty strong suite altogether. I don't think that it does anything particularly stand out over some of these other ones that we've done, but it is a complete package of accessibility options that work very well for whatever you need.
Can I mute obnoxious characters in my party?
I have bad news, Greg.
Oh no, it's the feature I wanted.
Well, I suppose you can swap them out and leave them at base and never talk to them.
There you go.
Yep. Another Ubisoft title is in this category, Star Wars Outlaws, which I think one of the standout features, Bill, was they had like a visual accessible, like for visually impaired players, they had quite a few options for this.
I think it was actually the opposite.
For deaf
But they do
gamers?
have a ton of accessibility options. They actually posted a spotlight article about the accessibility that they have to the Ubisoft website before or around when the game released. So there's probably like a few dozen options in accessibility included in that. They do have visuals, so like they have high contrast settings, which would be like, you know, not colorblind settings, but obviously they're visual. They have visual intensity settings. They have FOV settings. They have a no audio reliance setting. I think that might be what you were talking about, Asif.
That's no, I was talking about the contrast stuff because that is for low vision people, like
right,
not completely blind, but you have issue with contrast. So that helps with that. But yeah,
they have
the one that no audio cues. That's for people who are hearing impaired.
Yes, exactly. I thought maybe you just forgot, but
no,
they do. Yeah.
It has both. Is my point.
Yes,
like
it does.
It's actually quite a robust amount of features.
It has high contrast settings. It has high contrast mode for world color, and then it has visual intensity. It has colorblind settings. It has, like I said, the FOV. It has subtitles, but it even goes on like beyond that. Like the game has an auto walk, which I am used to wanting auto walks in some of the games I play, because if you're running for 25 minutes in DayZ, you don't really want to hold W for that long. But I thought that was kind of cool because I never really thought that there was a ton of walking in this game. But I mean, still, auto walk is just great to have. It has remapping for keyboard and mouse, for controllers, as far as I know. It even has some settings that go right into the gameplay, right? So like you can get like stronger aim assist. You can get things like I think so that it actually like nerfs some of like the puzzles and some of the gameplay to the like
you can
so that
disable some of the QTEs.
Yeah, absolutely. Even in the mini games and stuff like that, like some of those, like I think that's what you're talking about, Ozzy. Like in the mini games, some of the QTEs in there are actually they have.
I know there's at least one in Sabak where you can have Nick's cheat for you, and you can disable that.
Yeah. So basically, like everything that everybody talks about with this game, I know that it's kind of been the topic of, is it good, is it bad, is it somewhere in between, and people are mad and people are whatever. But the one thing that I think that is like just a home run, and there's really no debating it, are the accessibility settings, which, to your point and to what we've talked about already, is like Ubisoft is really not starting to anymore. I mean, they've been doing this now for a couple of years, but like there's a standard now.
Yeah, it's starting to feel like a consistent kind of thing from them, where it's like, we're going to have at the very bare minimum, these are going to be the accessibility features. And then depending on the game, they seem to be adding more.
And I think that's really important, because a lot of times we get caught up in, do I want to play this game because do I like it or do I not like it? Is it my kind of game? Is it not my kind of game? But there's just a whole bunch of people in the world who play what they can play. Right? Like it's a luxury for us to kind of nitpick over, like, do I want to play this? Do I want to play that? And there's just some folks that they can't play certain things because the accessibility isn't there, and they have to play things where the accessibility exists. So
to your point about auto walk, like that exists because there's some people who might not be able to have as many inputs as us. So it's like, yeah, I can control attack or I can control jump, but like that third thing you want me to do, I can't do at the same time. So I think like thinking about the limitations of your players and creating these tools, it's just going to be good for the overall world when you do stuff like this.
That's really accessibility for me. Is it's not just about what you can link in your mind. So it's not saying, oh, well, I know there's colorblind people, so I'll make colorblind settings. It's just giving people the most amount of configurability as possible, because you can't actually imagine what someone needs until it happens.
Yeah, and also just there's so many third-party hardware devices for the accessibility world that like being open in your systems and in your APIs to allow those hardware devices to work with your games. Like that's Nintendo, I'm talking to you right now. Get better at this, for the love of God. But like the companies that do take this seriously, I think work directly with the communities now, Bill. And like because of charities like Able Gamers and the work of Steve Spawn, like it's become more of a discussion before games launch, while they're in development, than I think they would have been 10 years ago.
And what I meant to say is, like, by creating accessibility options that, like, you almost can't predict what someone is going to need. And I'm almost like, I'm putting that on myself because, and I'm sorry to tie it back, but like, I didn't know I needed tinnitus settings because I didn't know they existed. I didn't know it was an option, right? So I just think that, like, push these settings further and further and further than you think they need to go, because you will find people that find them valuable, even if, you can't see that.
Nice. And then, yeah, our last nominee here, I'm glad we waited before we did these deliberations, but Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. Is the Great Circle the Red Ring of Death?
Not quite.
Okay, good.
Yeah, so like having just gotten through this game and having looked over the options pretty thoroughly, like they have a lot of good visual stuff in Indiana Jones. Like I wouldn't say outstanding, but like they cover colorblind, they cover subtitles, they cover the UI and font sizes on subtitles. They're one of the few that I've seen that have like a lot of different settings to. Once you turn on a colorblind setting, you can adjust the brightness, contrast, and intensity and strength to kind of find that sweet spot. They're also one of the best that I've seen as far as controller customization goes. This game feels like it's perfect for like the Xbox adaptability controller, because you can change. Not only can you change like every single button around on either a gamepad or mouse and keyboard, but you also have a lot of options that are like toggle options. And I'm talking about like we've seen stuff like where you toggle sprint, but you can apply that to a lot of different things, including like aiming the firearm, aiming the camera, raising a lighter, throwing things, blocking in combat. Just one button press and it will lift it up instead of you having to hold it. You can fiddle with aim assist to a certain degree, like turn it on completely to where it will like pull your shot towards the enemy, or just completely shut it off. It just feels like, and like the dead zone adjustments in this game, like it feels like it was made by somebody that wanted a very, 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 very specific style of control, and we all end up benefiting as a result.
I'm gonna just throw it out here. Every game should allow me to change the UI font size, and this game does. Like, enough. Please give us that feature, because it's getting ridiculous.
I also feel like every game should allow you to customize button mapping.
Yeah.
That should be. I figured that's something that should be standard, but it's not.
And the mess that you have on Nintendo Switch with that, Greg, where you can't do it per game, but you can change button mapping at the system level.
Yeah.
Like, what the hell is that?
The X button
Like,
is
that is
different. Oh my god, and I want to move it so bad whenever.
But it's like you can do it, but it's only for, you get your buttons right for one Switch game and then you switch to another and you're like, well, now I have to revert everything.
Yep.
It's like, can't I have profiles for individual games? But yeah, you're right, TJ. Like the amount of button mapping allowed here, You can control where on the screen the UI elements show up, so they're not on the peripheral of the screen. You can enable or disable showing the speaker name for subtitles, font size for subtitles. They have that thing, I mentioned, like when you start the game, so the first time you start it drops you right into the accessibility menu. Yeah, a bunch of HUD settings.
Hey,
brightness.
you know what? I swear in the past I've heard Bill complain about this. When a game has like highlight systems around objects that don't fit, that aren't in a color that you can see as a colorblind person, this game can lets you change it. Like as far as the outlines on any object, you can change the color of them based on what they are. If you want items to be like their default white and with the outline, but you can change them to something like yellow or green or something else. Enemies are red, but you can change them to like blue or something. And I think just being able to do that for people that can't see the colors they have by default, to have better recognition of the things that you can interact with in the world, that's a big deal.
It's one of the biggest things I need those settings for, is because a lot of times, like in a video game, like let's say you're playing a shooter, and your teammate highlights an enemy that's on the other side of a building, but that name is in red. The fact that like the building itself may sort of blend with that color. So you're right. Like that's what I really need, is like something. Unfortunately, colorblind settings are usually pretty gross to look at, but they're functional. So.
And this sounds dumb, but I think it's important. You can pause during cutscenes.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely.
It sounds so innocuous, but that's important and useful. That's like I think this is an example, TJ, of a lot of little things coming together to create a huge suite of accessibility features for this game.
Mhm.
And I think Bethesda's done a really good job on that front for a few years now, and Microsoft's obviously been a leader in this space too. So this is great. Like you said, all the optionality with controls and dead zones and aim assist, being able to turn off or change the intensity of vibration is hugely important. And yeah, Greg, you can change the button layout in the game.
Thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's becoming more standard. Like the fact that like there's just a stat category for accessibility this year. Like it's just not even, I think 2 or 3
I'm
years
happy
ago.
to see that.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's getting better. Like it's getting more and more commonplace.
Yeah, like let's keep getting competitive about this. Let's keep giving out awards for this so that we can incentivize companies to keep being cool and making these things. But yeah, like when more people can play, it's good for any company too, because more people can buy your game. Yeah. What do you guys say? Anything else you want to say, or should we get to voting?
We're good.
We're good to vote then. Let's see. Bill, start with you.
I'm gonna go with Star Wars Outlaws with an honorable mention to COD's Tinnitus feature.
Okay. Sam.
Could I instigate the pass and I'll circle back around?
Okay.
Thank you.
Steve.
I'm gonna go Call of Duty.
Mm-hmm. David. You're muted. Like through Discord.
Weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. I don't remember clicking that. This is tough. I think I'll go Indiana Jones.
Mm-hmm. Donovan.
Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown.
Okay. Denny.
Show Tekken some love.
Yeah. Greg.
I'd like to follow Bill's example, do Star Wars Outlaws.
That's big of you considering how much you hate Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Impressive. Maybe the internet could learn something from that. No, the internet doesn't learn. TJ.
Man, It's really hard to choose between Tekken and Indiana Jones in this particular case because both of them do so damn well on every front.
Mm-hmm.
I think I'm going to go with Tekken 8 because some of the stuff that they've done with that accessibility setup is already seeping into other games, and I love to see that.
Mm-hmm. Ozzy.
Tekken 8.
Well, Sam, we're back to you.
Yeah, thank you. Star Wars. Put me down for Star Wars.
Okay. So yeah, Andy Jones got some Tekken votes. A lot of Tekken votes. A lot of Star Wars votes. In fact, there's a tie right now between the two. So I could vote for something that didn't get any votes, and that would cause a runoff election. Or I could just choose the winner here. Interesting that Indiana Jones got so much time where we were talking about it, but only one vote. I'm right? They only got one. Yeah, Donovan, you voted for Prince of Persia.
It's the freshest.
Correct.
It's the freshest one in TJ's mind, I think, too, because he's been playing it recently up until like a couple days ago.
Sure.
Which helps. That does help.
Yeah, it does.
And I said myself, I like if it was really hard to choose between those two.
Yeah. I'm trying not to let my racial bias come out here and just vote for Tekken because I'm Pakistani American, but like, it's getting really hard not to just vote for Tekken here.
Did debate?
And also,
they had a
I
good.
can't. You're muted, Greg.
They had a good. No, they had a good argument. Like, vote for it because it was a good argument too. Like, that was just a good argument for it. Accessibility in a fighting game is very rare.
But I really do think Ubisoft does an amazing job, kind of across all their games, when it comes to accessibility. So like, I kind of agree with Donovan with like Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown, that being able to like take a pin or whatever in the map, like those little things, like those are gameplay accessibility features, but I think they like improved Metroidvanias with that. I didn't see a whole lot in Star Wars Outlaws where I was like, that's brand new. It just seems like a package of a lot of great things. Whereas Tekken 8, like TJ, you're kind of breaking down some things that I don't think have been in the fighting game scene ever. And as someone who is straight dog water at fighting games, I need all of that to help me not be trash. So I'm gonna vote for Tekken 8. Which means congratulations to Bandai Namco. Tekken 8 is the Shacknews Award winner for Outstanding Achievement in Accessibility for the year 2024.